Iorì Wase's podcast is brought to you by First Nations Fiber. On this episode of The Beading Table, we'll be talking about our current projects, some very interesting news when traveling with beads. Also, are you entitled? Stay tuned because we will be announcing the winner of our Beading Table giveaway.
Have you ever been gaming or working online classes and your internet service constantly gets interrupted? First Nations Fiber is about to ensure that just won't happen again. Get ready for high speed at a new level. Click on fnfiber.com and sign up today. First Nations Fiber, empowering people through connectivity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to June's edition of The Beading Table. I'm Leith, and I'm here with Digoriyakwa Stand Up. And we are going to talk today about a variety of topics, but we're going to start off with our just maybe update on the things that we're currently working on. Margaret, how are you doing on the dreaded grad orders?
Still dreading it. Nah, doing okay. I wanted to be done now, but I'm not. I kind of really lost my mojo to bead. And it's not about the project. It's not like it had nothing to do with any of it. I was super excited to do it and work on it. And I just don't want to bead though. So it's a struggle right now. I'm just really trying to get back. I'm trying to allot myself at least an hour to 2 hours a day, or like forcing myself to do that each day to stay consistent and getting it done. I am like 90% done the order.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah, like it's just finishings now. There is a little bit of beading left on a cuff that has to get done. And I still have to finish my daughter's stuff. All her beading is done. I just didn't assemble one cuff. It's been sitting there. So that has to get done, obviously. And I have like 15 days left to do it. So
you said 14 at the
14,
store.
Yeah, whatever. I don't even know what day we are right now. But yeah. It's all due for like the 13th, so I have to have it done ASAP.
But are you worried, or you think you're going to get it done?
No, I'm not worried at all. Like, I know I can do it. It's just like, do I want to continue procrastinating and having it in the back of my head, or should I just like dedicate one day, bust it out, and be done? Like, and I just can't bring myself to doing it. Like, it's ridiculous, but yeah, that's where I'm at right now. So, and you, I saw your little mishap.
Okay, so just to backtrack, I am finished all of my order, my one like large graduation order. But I had a series of like, I called them mishaps on Instagram, but they were kind of like disastrous. The main one was that I had completely finished everything. The 2 pairs of moccasins, the cuffs, the yoke. I had done the last of the edging on the back. I was attaching the clasp for the closure, and I flipped the yoke right side over, and there were 2 very distinct colored spots on the back of the vamp where you would, I guess, maybe technically hold sorry, would I say vamp or yoke? I turned over the yoke, and where you technically would hold it to clasp it, there seemed to be like 2 gray marks there. And the only thing I can account for it is I kept it on a piece of cardboard as I was beading, and there must have been maybe some residue somewhere. And every time I flipped it over or I was shifting it and it was right side down, it discolored the fabric.
And it was a light, like it was a lighter.
It was light blue, like really light blue.
So it picks it up easy.
It was crazy because it was on both sides of the vamp back. And I was like, what the fuck? And my husband walked in and I was like, Jesus Christ, I just finished this goddamn thing and now I find this. And wouldn't you know, as I was inspecting the rest of the wear, one of the fringes had come off.
Oh,
and I thought, what is going on here? So luckily, my fringe was done in a way that there was only one thread for one fringe on this particular. Normally that wouldn't happen, but in this particular instance, that was the case. And then what I had to do is I had to cut away the backing, which was the second backing that I made because the first one did not fit properly. So I had to redo it all over again. And by redoing the back of the yoke, I then had to redo the liner of the moccasins just because I'm so anal like that and I wanted everything to be matchy-matchy. So that was like a project I had to redo before. But anyway, so I had to take off all of the edging beading because that's how I fused it. And then I had to slip stitch on the yoke, the actual neck part. So I had to take that part off. And so I had to do another, I think it was finished that day, but I wanted to be done like before dinner, and it ended up being done in the evening. Everything got done. The only thing I have to do now is I have to, so I guess maybe technically I'm not done yet, is I have to cut the strings that would go on the cuffs, on the armbands, arm cuffs, I should say, or wrist cuffs. So I have to do that and just put it together, and then obviously the client will come in and try it on, and I know it's going to fit. My fingers are crossed and it's going to work out, but I was just so like fit to be tied. I was so close. I was like 100% done. And then I had this thing where I had to then rebead, or I should say not rebead, but I had a design thankfully already that had just covered those 2 spots on the back of the cuff. So that was like something else. I've had instances where things like that happened where I had to like backtrack, but never to that extent where I had all of a sudden this discoloration, and a discoloration that I could not unsee. I thought, oh yeah, you know what? Nobody will see that. Bullshit. Like everyone could see that. And then, so that was my horrible time for that part, but it's done. And I'm glad that it's finished, and I really like it, and I like the colors, and I just love the finishing when I roll my hand over the edge of like the moccasin, because I do that whip stitch. You can just feel the nice precision of the beads, and so I'm really glad it's all done. And then I don't think I have anything else, not for this graduation. I have it for a graduation in the fall, but I'm now starting my Santa Fe stuff.
Yay! Woo!
So
lovely. Yeah, so it's kind of like, I know a lot of our listeners are usually people who are beaders or crafters or things like that. So for those who don't know about orders, taking grad orders, I'm sure we talked about this before. I don't even remember, but it's a big deal. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment. It's, some people have to start way in advance, especially if you're not like a full-time beader in a sense. Like I would have to say, like, call us full-time beaders. Like this is partially our jobs. But there are some people who are more, I guess, say hobby, like they have full-time jobs all the time and then they go home. That's their downtime and things like that. So yeah, taking on a job this big, especially when you're full-time, is like crazy. Like I remember doing that before.
Oh, when you used to work at the school?
Yeah. And then taking it on and it's like, you don't have time to breathe, like, or you literally get home from your job and then jump right into it. Like,
that's kind of where I am now, even though I'm not working like full-time, I'm only working 20 hours a week. It's still like I work 4 days. So it takes a lot of your time. And I'm, I would say up until maybe 2 weeks ago, I was just like a day beater, like on the weekend or whatnot. And then sometimes even maybe before work. But now I've thankfully, I got back into the habit of working towards the night. So, but I'm still like, I'm back where I was when you first opened the shop. I feel myself going back there. And maybe this is something we don't necessarily talk a lot about, but when you opened your shop and I asked to like go there and have a spot, I went there because I thought beadwork was taking over my life, my personal life. And I felt like anything outside of beadwork was like not hindering. It was just like getting in my way. And I found myself on the weekend because I was I'm like the grad is over, but now my big thing is these Santa Fe beaded items. And so I was like, yeah, I want to get it done. And I'm so jazzed because it's coming along and it's something different, whatever. And I was just like feeling annoyed that I had to like talk to my kids or just like, it's not a good feeling. And I know it when I'm doing it, but I'm so like, wanna bead. I just wanna.
Yeah. And it's like, you want to tune out the world. Like I get, I get the same way because, and of course, like for me too, I sit at my kitchen table in the middle of everything. And when you're in the zone, when you're beading, it's like,
hey, stop, give me some milk. I'm like, get it yourself or drink water so you can go in the bathroom and get it yourself.
Yeah, that's how I get too, where it's, especially when you're like just getting into the groove of it and you're like, oh, like all into it. And then somebody asks something and I'm like, no, you're going to kill my vibe.
I have no, like you just said, they're killing your vibe and I have no vibes for dinner. Like I even told my husband, I go, I don't even want to cook anymore. I don't even like, he's looking at me like, what?
Yeah. It's like, I just want to bead.
And I just don't want to have to make the decisions. And I think, so
I find for me, this time of the year, I think I'm remembering now, like from last year and probably all the other years, but this time of the year, I just want to be outside, or I just want to be enjoying life and because it's getting warm and it's nice out. And so I'm like the opposite right now, where I'm like, I have to be like, I just, like, I enjoy it once I start doing it, but I guess it's the daunting task of thinking like, I could be outside, like bumming around my yard and playing with my flowers and like planting, like
really,
yeah,
like that's your like aside.
That's a hobby for me. Like I in the this year actually I am not planting. Like I normally do a big garden every year, but I'm in a transition where I'm changing my plans up, so I'm not planting a garden, but I want to focus on flowers. So now I'm like, oh, I want to beautify my yard now, but that's pulling me away from like my tasks, and like I don't have time for that right now. I really like by next month I can do it, but I got to get this stuff done right now. So we were talking to, I did receive an inbox from somebody asking, and normally I would just say no because it is very last minute, but I did, feel for her. She's the person who contacted me, has 2 children graduating this year, and she has been working to try to get her stuff done, and she's in panic mode as well, you know. So I couldn't say yes, but I didn't say no. I just said, I can give you a soft maybe. Yeah. Like I really don't know if I can do it, just because I'm already in a slump myself. I'm still trying to get these 2 projects finished, my daughter's and the grad order I have right now. Yeah, so that's also another motivation to try to get these things done this week. That way I can help her out and, to try to, she needs 2 moccasins, which I know I won't be able to do 2, but I did say I possibly, could take on 1. So hopefully I'll get some more drive and, that way I can kind of help her out and get her stuff done for her kids and, But yeah, it's like, I don't know. I'm sure there's so many people that feel the same way, that get into that space around this time where it's like, the finish line, but you're like dragging sometimes.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Just trying to get it done. So that's where I'm at with all of it. So
once that 14 countdown is done, that 14-day countdown is done, then you'll be like free of all the things aside from that big hush order you have. But
yeah,
then you'll be free to do like whatever it is you want to do in the summer, or there's something else after that?
No, I have 3 other things. It's just back things. I think I talked about it before. It was like old raffles that have to be honored. And another big order that had to be honored, which they're, which I don't mind though. Those.
Oh, yes, I remember that one. Okay.
Like they're already in the process. Like everything's already prepped. Everything like for them all, they're all ready to go. It's just I don't have the time to sit and do it. Yeah. So once the grad stuff's done, I'm bulldozing through all of those things right away, get those done, and then I can feel free. I have the big thing in the fall, and that I have to work because it's a large volume of what was ordered. So I have to do I have to make a schedule for. I have to make sure that each week there's a certain amount that's going to be completed and put aside. So I have to keep busting that out. I have only till November to complete it. So, and it seems a long time, but it's not. It's not a long time. Yeah, we're already June.
Like and we're just January.
Exactly.
We started the beading table in January, and now it's going to be June.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
It blows right by. So, yeah. So I have to get, and what I started, because I haven't had time to focus on it, I have the colors set kind of, and I have the idea, but it's not fully done yet. So that's going to take another time, like a big amount of time to have to sit and finish doing all that stuff too. So I'm like, that's got to get going. Like as soon as I'm done the rest of my stuff, and then I'm free. I'll be free. So I'm excited for that. But I'm in a weird space right now. I'm in a transition. Like I don't know what to do with my freedom. I guess once I'm actually freed, and I'll know. But right now I'm like,
you don't even have freedom yet, and you're already thinking like, what am I going to do with it?
Yeah. But I have no idea. I have no idea what I want to do or where I want to go with any of it. So, or what goals I have. So I'll get there. But yeah. So,
man.
Yeah.
This is a time I love. I don't know why I love it. You said you like it because you're inside. Not inside, but you can be outside and do all these things. I love it because, well, like, I don't want to say I don't like to be outside. but I'd rather be inside beading. Like that's my thing. Like and it's this time where I can do like my most creative stuff because I'm technically free to do what I want to do in this very short June to like August time. And I'm just thinking like, what do I want to do with my life? Like, do I want to, like, I'm working now and I love it, but I can feel myself being like, you know what, maybe I don't want to work. Like that happens all the time. Like this is my ridiculous like cycle of
I'm in the same
psychological.
No, I'm in the exact same boat. Even with my store, like I love my store. I love all that. But then I'm like sitting there some days. I'm like, I want to be beading. And yes, I can technically bead in my store, but it's kind of like the same vibe when you're at home trying to bead, where if a customer comes in, I have to stop. So it breaks the momentum. So I can't always focus there. So I like my quality time doesn't happen there. Just because there's other things I have to do while I'm there. So it is a job. It's work. So yeah, some days I'm like, oh, but then it's the whole idea of like paying a worker and, you know, like there's all kinds of stuff when you own a business. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. I'm like, all right, what do I do? What am I doing with my life? Like, do I want to, my mother was even saying, she's like, you know, I miss your stuff. She's like, you are still doing things. She's like, but you're not doing your things. You're doing other people's things right now still. Yeah. And I said, yeah. And that's how I'm feeling. Like, I'm done. I don't know. I just got to get back to something.
And I think that's that's where we differ, is because I'm doing my own stuff. Yeah.
And I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, it's me, but there's
like parameters.
A direction. Yeah. So I'll get out of it, but that's where I'm at right now. It's a bit of a slump. I don't know.
Question.
Yes.
Just a random. What's your favorite drink to drink when you're beading?
Oh God, my Starbucks. Oh my God, a refresher.
Oh my God, I don't want to go there, but I was going to say something really crazy, but I won't.
Yeah. I get my refresher.
What kind?
I've blasted through all of them. I started with their dragon fruit refreshers, and then I got sick of that. We're not
sponsored by Starbucks, but if you want to, we're all here for it.
I get that, and then I used to get the strawberry acai or whatever. I got sick of that, and now I am back to peach green tea lemonades with water, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I was turning into a habit though. So I was like, okay, I got to cut this out now. So I'm trying to reduce that, but I usually get that. I get water. I like to have like a big thing of water, and that's about it. And you?
I like to drink coffee.
Really?
I love to drink coffee.
Oh my God, I have to say something, because every time I sit down, and I'm name dropping again, but every time I sit down with like a cup of coffee or something that like could potentially stain like what I'm working with, I always think of Merit. In like some of the classes I remember taking, she'd be like, don't put your drinks on the table. And I was like, yeah, you're totally right. And here I am. I put like working on my daughter's stuff. It's all white. Yeah. I was sitting there drinking a cup of coffee, and I just kept hearing Merit like, are you crazy? Get that shit off the table. Like, so I had it on the table though, but luckily I didn't stain anything.
Yeah. I remember when my mother had her store, Blue Sky Beads. That's what happened, is that they would say, one of the things is like, you can drink, but you shouldn't have anything on the table.
Yeah.
That's why I remember hearing that a lot too. I have a system. Because I sit on my kitchen table at the end and I face my living room, so I can see the kitchen and I can see my living room, and I can see somebody walk through the door or everything. And so to my right is my coffee, but it's not far away. I can reach it, but it's far enough away where there is a box that sits in front of it, and the box has just whatever inside of it. And then I have some of my other like instruments, my supplies. And then I have my beading mat with my table with all my beads. And well, I'm a spiller of the beads. Like I like to mix mine. God, some people hate that. You hate that. And then I have beads in the front of that.
My OCD.
And then I have what I'm doing now. And I think this is why some people do it, but I'm not 100% sure. There's a beader on Instagram, and when he's beading, he has this like block that's covered in duct tape, and you can see like there's like little holes in it. And I'm assuming it's because when he puts his needle through, instead of going through like the table or something, it would go through this little block of duct tape. I'm not 100% sure, but I see this often. I asked him about it, but he never like answered back or whatever. Like, you know, he's busy. He's like famous. So yeah, he's like pretty famous. Anyway, so that's what I saw. And so what I've done, because I'm worried about, again, color on my stuff, I have this big pad of like Bristol board, and it's like a pad, not just like one Bristol board. It's like maybe like 18 by 11, the size of the Bristol board sheets. And so I put my beadwork on there, and now, because when I put my needle through, it goes on this Bristol board pad. So that's how my setup is. So it's like very far away. It's like maybe 2 feet away from my coffee. So even if it spilled, it would spill on my beading mat, not necessarily my coffee, on my actual like beadwork, because the actual Bristol board pad is higher than the tabletop. So if it spilled over, it would go under the Bristol board pad. So, but yeah, so this is like my whole thing. And so I drink coffee and I eat spicy plantain chips that are red, but I don't eat them while I'm beading. Yeah. But I eat them at my beading spot, and then I push everything away.
I do the same.
And then that's it. But yeah, usually I drink coffee, and usually I have like AHA, or like, what do you call that? What's the other one called? Bubbly or something like that?
Yeah. It's interesting because every beater has their own thing going on, because I have very similar. I'm right-handed, so my drink is always on the right-hand side. It's at the end of the table, so that if I knock it over, it's out of reach. So, but in the event, it's going to fly off the table the opposite way, so it shouldn't come towards me. And it's the same thing. I have all my stuff, and I am not, when I bead, like for the most part, things are not clean. Like
you're a cleaner.
Yeah, I have to, like, it gets crazy. It does get messy when you're in the process and you're like cutting leather and you're doing this. But when I'm going to sit now and bead, I have to arrange everything. So everything has to get reorganized. Everything has to get clean, like to the point where if I'm not using that color when I'm beading, it's back in the bag.
What?
Yeah.
It's just everywhere.
No,
I have a pile of loose thread on the right-hand side right next to my coffee cup.
I always think of my cousin Janice.
Yes.
So I'm calling you out, cuz. No. So I love her process. She has a tiny little paper bag she used to bring to class when we were all beading and stuff like that. And all of her loose threads would go in there. I'm like,
bag.
Oh my God, it's so cute. And it was so like, that would be me. Like, I would need that. I always have, but I make a clean, neat pile. It's all in the same place. Everything stays there. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can work in some chaos a little bit, but like I said, it's only if I'm using that stuff at the time. Like, if I'm beading now and I don't need my leather anymore, it has to get put away. Or if I don't like that stuff, I need it out of here. But sometimes, I am guilty of just like leaving. Like, if I'm not done with stuff, like I will leave it there and my family has to work around it. And then I yell at them for eating near my stuff, which is my fault because I'm leaving everything there. But I'm like, go sit somewhere else. Like, I don't even care if you're on the couch right now eating your cereal. Like, don't eat at the table because my stuff's there and I don't want to move it.
Me, like my youngest was coming to give me a hug. I'm like, no, I can't hug you, because I'm like, wait, Leith, this is wrong. Wait, come back. And then I move my chair way back. Yeah. And then I hug. Ta-ta. Okay, go now.
You're like, all right, yeah, be gone. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, that's like, it'd be interesting to see and hear everybody's setups and stuff like that, and how people, that was going around before. We should do it again. Like, what does your setup look like, and what is your little weird quirks like that? Like, are you a messy beater? Are you a clean beater? Do you need to tidy up? Like for me, I like to be in cozy clothes. I can't have socks on. Like,
what?
Yeah, I don't like sitting.
This is like really intense. Like,
that's like my thing though. Like, Greg hates it. I leave my socks all over the house. Like, I will be standing in the living room and I kick them off and then I leave them there. So I usually have a pile of socks under the table.
I wonder, like, I've been watching Criminal Minds, doing one of my orders, and I'm also watching the crazy celebrity divorce thing, but we won't go there. But anyway, so I've been watching Criminal Minds, and I'm just wondering, like, when you say, like, what does everybody's beadwork table look like? And then you talk about taking your socks off, like, what the psychological profile of somebody who, like, can't have their socks on while they're beading. Like that's, but you said it's all the time. It's not necessarily just for beading, but it's interesting, like you really get to know the ins and outs of somebody's psychological
their craziness
ways. But like, I mean, when you're talking about like the setup and look of people's table, like I really wonder, like we were talking earlier about like powwow preppers, people who are getting ready for the powwow and trying to bust out all that, especially now, because maybe for the past 2 years, people haven't done powwows maybe in Kahnawake or even outside of Kahnawake. And so everyone, I don't want to say everybody because that's a really generalization, but you would assume people were doing beadwork and things during the pandemic. But on the opposite side, because there's so much to think about and so many things that were going on, people might not have done that. So now they're really in the last stages.
Yeah, crunch time.
Yeah, crunch time. And I wonder just like what it would be like. I know for myself, like when we used to sell beads there, my mother and I, it was like a process. It was a dirty process in the sense that it was dusty, like it was a dusty place. You had to make sure like your stuff was like cleaned off and stuff like that. Like that's the only thing I would worry about things. That's why you see a lot of people have like their stuff under like
the glass. Those are really good to have. Yeah. I've done powwow before, not necessarily just my beadwork stuff though, but like for the store and things like that. I think I did it once or twice. And a lot of time people ask like, well, are you having a stand or whatever? And for me, honestly, I'm kind of like, it's a lot of work. If you already like, I don't know, for me anyways, like to pack up the store and then bring it all there. And because I don't own all the pieces I'm taking other people's stuff there, there's always that fear that, things are going to get ruined and then I'm liable for that. So I find it a little like, I don't know. Like I tend to, if I do go, I tend to bring things that like are like, I'm not going to bring the pillows and blankets and things like that where, if it gets ruined and, if it's a sign, then maybe I can wipe it down or, that kind of weatherproofing. But beadwork, I would be, especially like it's our thing in Kahnawake. It usually rains on our powwows like every year,
like just
at least
prep
one
and
day.
Make sure you have plastic. That's what I would like, say to anybody. Yeah. Like those clear garbage bags or that clear plastic you can buy at the hardware store or something like that, just so that you can quickly cover everything in case of some kind of rain. But there must be a lot of people out there doing a lot of beadwork.
Yeah, I know
must
of
be
two.
Earring Central out there in the
like I know of 2 preppers right now. I'm gonna call you out.
Preppers,
the preppers,
powwow bead workers or bead workers in general who tend to go to the powwow. Let's say that. Yeah.
So I've seen Billy Jo. She has been prepping like maniac, and she has a full-time job, man. So I can't imagine right now, like it's a short time trying to bust out like a lot of stuff to get ready because it was just announced maybe 2 months ago. That we were having powwow. So, and then Candace is another one. Candace is canvases. So I've seen her like, just work, and they both have full-time jobs. So it's like, my heart goes out to you ladies.
And Billy Jo, hers is Sweetgrass. Is it Sweetgrass beadwork? I want
Inspiration, I believe.
Sweetgrass Inspiration. I just want to make sure that we get it right so that way she gets her shout out.
Yes, and Candace's canvases.
Yeah, so hopefully if you're in Kahnawake, then you'll be able to stop by, and I think it's July. I don't even know when the date is of the powwow.
I'm not sure. No, I don't know.
I don't know. Man, how horrible. Oh, yes, it is July 9th and July 10th.
Wow.
And so if you're in Kahnawake.
Bead like the wind, ladies.
Yes, come on over and see what's going on.
Yeah.
At the powwow.
So let's move on to something that we had seen on Facebook and in the news.
I'm sure some people who are listening have seen this maybe, but because there was a lot of comments. I want to say, I don't know how many comments exactly were on there, but there were a lot. But so there was an Indigenous artist who was from Edmonton who was traveling within Canada and she got her beads confiscated because, now this wasn't on the website, the CBC website on May 24th, 2022. I took all the information down, so I make sure I get all my facts straight. The Canadian Air Transport Security Authority said that there's a limit on craft beads on carry-ons of 350 milliliters. Now, I don't know who is like measuring out beads in milliliters, but I measure out in grams. So
they're counting beads. And like, when did that begin is my question, because I just flew to Hawaii like a few months ago, and I swear to God, I brought so many beads that I could have opened up a bead store out there. Like,
but that's international. This is Canada. And actually, there was another artist in the article who was also also traveling within Canada, and she also had her beads. She had to limit hers. But
there was another one though from Kahnawake who had posted saying that same thing happened to her. She had to get rid of some of her beads, and she was going to, I believe, I don't want to misquote it. Like it could have been either Vegas. I could be wrong though.
She was traveling that like from Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe it was BC though, because I think that's, or California. I don't know. There was 3 different places I had seen. So it's either one of them. So if it was the other 2 places, it was to the States. So
God,
I'll have to double check that. But she knows who she is.
She knows who she is.
And where she was. But yeah, I had read her thing and I was like disgusted that she had to choose, and she picked, like, for those who might be listening and just getting into beading, or maybe you're a listener and you don't really bead and you just like listen to us, like, beadwork supplies are ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
Beads themselves are a lot. So I cannot imagine getting to an airport, and especially if you are working on, like right now, I'm working on some stuff where I have like a vial of beads and that's all I have for that project.
That's the thing. You're not traveling with just whatever. You're traveling with what it is you need for that project.
Yeah. And then to get there and have somebody say you got to toss it, I would be pissed. I would be probably like throwing a damn fit in that place.
Mm-hmm. But I had never heard of that before.
Me neither. So I was shocked to read that. And I call bullshit. Like, when did that start? Why did that start? What is the justification for that? Like,
it was because there was a limit on certain kind of substances. You could only have 350 milliliters of a certain substances. And I think the beads fall under that same thing. I think it was powders or something, but beads
probably
are powder.
Like pills, medicines, like those kind of things.
I think so, yeah. So that's one of the things. But I mean,
like, they're cracking down all of a sudden. Like, who gives a shit, really? I don't know. That just really...
Like, I've traveled with some crazy... I've traveled with like tons of beads in my carry-on. Tons. I've never traveled like in Canada with beads in terms of like on the airport. I've traveled in the States with that. Hopefully I never get caught because I'd be so crazy and crying, whatever. But yeah, like I've traveled with tons, but then I've also traveled with tons in my actual luggage also, yeah. Which I'm also afraid that I'm going to be like every time I put anything in my luggage, I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. So that's like kind of crazy. But yeah, so I don't know. I've never heard about that. And it's something new. And
yeah, so
they even said like, why don't you just give it to somebody, have somebody come and pick it up? Like, one that seems so ridiculous. Like, who's going to drive all the way to the airport if you live far away to pick up
like 5 vials of beads?
Exactly.
You know?
But then there was somebody in the actual article who said that they were like antique beads.
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole nother thing too. But I mean, I don't know. It's something that I guess is just enforced randomly, or they're just singling us out.
Yeah.
Again.
Like, that's how I feel though. Like, all of a sudden now, like, there has never been an issue, and there's so many beadwork artists throughout Canada. Like, how all of a sudden now this is a thing? Like, I don't know.
Like, you can bring your scissors on, but you can't bring your beads.
Yeah, that's what was like. I didn't know beads were so dangerous. Like, I can bring my scissors.
As long as they're less than 3 inches long.
Yes, they have to be those little ones. But still, like, you could still stab somebody with that. Like, hello, you know?
We're not advocating for violence.
No, please don't do that. But you know what I mean? Like, hello.
What are you going to do? Throw beads in somebody's eye? And then they're going to be like, put it in their drink and they're not going to know after they crunch. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's dumb. The whole thing is dumb.
But yeah, that was an interesting thing. And that was like just last week. So I thought we should talk about it. Just because it was.
Yeah, but keep a heads up, people. Like, if you are traveling, make sure you check now all of a sudden. Like, you need to make sure that you have, I guess, the right milligrams or whatever it is that they're called. Milliliters of beads. So make sure that you're within limit.
Yesterday I drank 250 milliliters of a Coke. I mean, it's a big thing. Like, you know, like, it looks like a lot, but the lady in the article said they didn't even weigh them. Like, they didn't even know. Like, how do you know? But anyway, like, my vials at the store are 25 grams. So anyway.
Ridiculous. All ridiculous.
So that was something we just thought we'd bring up. If anybody out there has any travel stories with beads, let us know. You know, maybe some crazy stories. Maybe I'll post a picture on our beading table. Okay, so I'm going to just be honest. I always say I'm going to post pictures or whatnot on our Instagram beading table page, but I never do. So if you're disappointed, I take responsibility. And I don't ever post. Like, we don't have somebody who just does that. It's me. And I just forget.
I just don't get to it. And I'm really bad with it. I barely ever check any of my stuff. So you can't depend on me.
Yeah, you can't depend on her, but that's okay. We're trying our best.
Yes.
Thankfully, we have a producer, or else this thing would never get out.
Yeah.
It would just be a pipe dream. A vile dream, maybe. A
vile dream. So we had another thing that we were talking about, I guess, last podcast. We brought it up at the end.
Yes. So
and we didn't go into it. But
the question was, and you had done a little prelude and got a little heated.
I'm calm now, though.
You're calm now. But it was the question, or part of the topic was, are people entitled to an explanation when you decline their orders?
No, I don't have to tell you shit. No, but it depends.
Why do you feel like you do?
Yes, that's what it is. So it's an individual thing, and I think it's your own stuff, because some people are okay with saying no, and that's it. I am a people pleaser. I am working on that, to be more mean. No, I'm just kidding, but to, be consistent with my boundaries and things like that. So that stemmed from me just basically bitching about something that had happened last month, where I don't want to go too into it because I don't want to call anyone out and, things like that. But somebody asked for an order and I couldn't do it. I had to decline, but they were upset. And they got a little bit snippy with me, I guess, and I was kind of like...
Was that your interpretation, or that's how it was?
Oh, well, the answer was a little snippy.
Okay, so it literally was. Okay.
Yeah.
Just, I'm just getting a bit of doubt. Trying to play
who knows, though? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it is my own, maybe I was just in crazy mode, on the crazy train that day. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. And I missed it, because that happens too.
To me, yeah.
Through text, I can't tell tones or whatnot. But that's how I felt anyway. So I was kind of I didn't respond, though. I just was I actually didn't even respond to it. I just let it go or whatever. But I could feel myself wanting to explain, to make the situation, to diffuse it. And that's just me. That's
to make yourself feel better.
Yeah. And it's just to, so that they are not mad at me, type of thing. That's my own bullshit. That's my own personal things that whatever. But I just had to tell myself, no, you already had said no. You can't do. I can't. I physically could not take on, and it was a large order, so I couldn't do it. So, and it would not have been fair to say yes and then take it on and, and then not do it or give shoddy work, so I just declined again, so the person's not from the community, so that kind of helps. I don't have to see them all the time. And she deleted me after that. So
what?
Yeah. So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So whatever. But yeah, I kind of felt shitty afterwards, though. It kind of just brought me down, where I was I'm sorry, I can't do it. What do you want me to do? Anyway, so that's where that all stemmed from last month, where I was just kind of just don't be shitty. People just can't always say yes. We can't always say yes. So
yeah, it's different because it's not like a chain store, say, oh yeah, I'm looking for this top in pink. Yeah, can you check to see?
Yeah.
No, because I don't got nothing.
Yeah, I can.
And I think it's okay to say the customer is right, and maybe in that, and no, I shouldn't say that. I should say that people would say, well, it's the customer. You should be trying to run at people to get you to buy their bead, to get them to order stuff from you. But that's not really how it works.
No,
it's not at all.
Handmade.
It's not this. I mean, that's not how it works for me anyway. And I'm sure that's not how it works for you. But it's not if I want to take orders, then yeah, I'll post I'll take your orders and stuff like this. But otherwise.
And honestly, I can't wait. I would love to one day be hey, you know what? I'm opening up a spot for 2 small orders.
There's people that do that, and you're
yeah, because it's exciting. Oh shit, she's got space. Let me because so many people don't have room for anybody. That's the way it is right now. So it would be nice to be able to do that, eventually. But the reality is that we don't have the time. People don't have the time. We're stressed. Stretched to the max most of the times, because it's all custom, hand done, on top of life. So so that was the situation with all of that last month, where how do you handle it? I personally already know how you would handle it, but how do you handle it when people are a little pushy or aggressive, passive aggressive, or just flat out rude?
I don't know if I've had. I don't know if I've had anybody who's been flat out rude or aggressive. I don't think. I don't want to say I placate them, but probably that's what I do. I probably just placate them. Yeah, I'll take your name. I'll take your order. I mean, I'll take your name. I'll put you on a list. Like, I don't necessarily take orders. Like, that's what I was
Joke's
like.
on you. There is no list. No.
Shut the hell up. It's true. I said that in the last podcast. There was no list, but that was from like 5 years ago. And those who were serious have gotten in touch with
They
me
will recheck
more
back in. Yeah.
often than not.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I don't want to say that I don't think about the people who've asked, because I do, because I'm a human, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But does it weigh on me where I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get back to them? No, that's just how it is. Like,
Well, that's the idea too, is that like as a client, I think if you really need something, then it is up to you to continue to like that message, check in or do things like that. Because as the artists, like we're sitting here telling our lives and how stressful things are and the realities of it. And we can't always stay on top of everybody's stuff. Like that's, you have to meet somebody halfway, you know, in that sense. You have to check in, you have to do your own things. But that's how I feel like you want a service from me. I'm not running after you.
You know what is so crazy is DJ Khaled. You know who that is?
Yeah.
He was on The Shop. That's that basketball video, that basketball show on HBO I was talking about. It was like more like not pop culture, but just this show anyway. And he goes, "The money isn't going to chase you. You don't chase the money. The money chases you, or it comes to you, or something like that." That's what he said, and that's what I feel like. Like I'm not chasing nobody. I'm just gonna, you know, like whatever's coming is gonna come to me, and I'm gonna feel okay with that, and I'm just gonna to run with that, because I don't need the added stress of worrying about like what, like, you know, are you going to pay me? Are you going to do this? And like, you know, like I don't need that. Not to say that when a client comes in, they're like I check in with them obviously, but I'm not like running and soliciting people to come like, come to me, please. I need it so bad. No, I'm lucky at a point where that is coming towards me. Yeah. And I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. It probably won't be like that all the time, and that's okay. But right now, that's what I feel, and so that's why there's a lot of. I always watch that Shop all the time. I don't know why. It's just so crazy. But anyway, so yeah.
But yeah, there's a truth to it all, though. There was another little thing I have on here written. It just says prepping all your shit ahead of time.
Oh, because we were talking about that, about how you said that you were doing your grad stuff, and that you were like, oh man, I didn't prep the back of the yoke. And that's one of your things. So you prep everything right away.
I like to, yeah. So because it's like exactly where I'm at, I'm like almost done. Yes. I'm almost done beading. Now I'm like, oh, I have to prep the back. Not a big deal. It's not even a lot of work. But in your head, when you feel like you're almost there, you're almost done.
And you got to take out the iron again.
Yeah. And then I got to like sew it all. And then it feels like it's a big thing. Then I got to, and especially with a yoke, because it's a big piece. Like I have to get out the pattern. I got to clear off my table. I got to clean everything up. Like I make it bigger in my head really, but.
No, it's big because that happened to me. Like I had everything prepped. The yoke, the moccasins, everything. Yeah. And then I went and had to, that's what happened. It was the back of the actual wrist cuffs. There was a glue on them too. So there was everything anyway. So, I mean, I hate to like jump off your train.
No,
but yeah,
no. Anyway. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, yeah. So normally I like everything to be prepped, ready. And then I hang it somewhere. I cover it so that if it takes me a month, it's not sitting there collecting dust, but it's nice and neat and it's ready. I slap it on. This time I didn't do it. And I knew I would be kicking myself, and I am. So that's tonight's project. I'm going to be prepping that back. And yeah, I'm really hoping to be done within the next like 2-3 days. It's just the yoke. Like, so if anyone has ever done a yoke, you know what we're talking about. I've just given a whole bunch of classes on yokes and stuff like that. And I personally love doing yokes. I really do, because I don't find them that strenuous, and I like that the softness to it a little bit, like, but it's tedious. It's a lot of work. It's like, it's just so many steps.
It's a giant sandwich.
Yeah, it's when you have to, you know, put that bologna sandwich together. That's the part that's like,
especially if, like in my case, the neck was off.
Yeah.
The hole, like because it shrinks. Because what happened? This is a thing. You have a yoke on velvet or whatever, and you do your beadwork, and then you do the beadwork on the edge. It shrinks it. It pulls it in tighter because the fibers are being pulled by every stitch of the beads that you're putting close to the edge.
Yes.
So the backing was too big. And then when I put them together, because it was a dark fabric, because it was like midnight blue, you could see it right through. So I had to change my backing to a lighter color so it could be disguised. So everybody, that's one thing. Like, there's ways to disguise and, fudge around, but not when it's like black, and that's like dark and light.
In my classes too, like that's usually like what you're saying when things shift and they move, and like that's always something. I remember the first yoke I ever made, I was like, oh, what in the hell? It was done. It was completed. And I didn't take into account that if you lay it flat now and you're pulling to sew it, you are reducing the amount of space on one side, basically, because now I'm pulling it from underneath and now whatever. So it's shifting on you. So I did that. So by the time I got all the way around, it didn't fit. So now it's just, tricks of the trade. You just do it and you learn. So now when I tell them, like, do not pull too hard when you're doing it and tack them down.
Yeah.
So I always make sure that everyone tacks it in little places so that you're not getting that much shift. And it still may shift sometimes, But I also tell them, like, you really do not want to pull because then the yoke ends up bowing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you have to make sure that even if you're tacked, you're not pulling too much, because then, it's going to end up like flipping on you where it looks like a bowl almost or weird. So those are other little tricks I'm giving you. But make sure that you're not doing those kind of things when you're working with it.
If that happens, sometimes you can disguise that by putting fringe. Yeah. Because it'll weigh it down.
Yeah.
But even then you have to be like,
spot on.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah. You know what, Degariyakwa? I think it's time for us to pull the winner of our first beading table giveaway.
Yay!
So I have made a little wheel on my iPad and then I had to transfer it to my cell phone. But could you maybe take a video of it too? Because then we can post it on our Instagram page. People know that we weren't trying to be scamming. So I wanted to just say nyawa and thank you to everyone who put in. The deadline was May 20th. And so those who either shared or liked our page, our post, and then had tagged 2 friends. So the people who were doing the tagging were put into the raffle. And if the person who was tagged then tagged other people, then of course we would put them in the raffle. But it wasn't the people who were actually tagged in the 2 friends. So there were a total of 57 entries. Some of them were duplicated, but not a whole lot. So I want to just say nyawa. And this was for all of the things that we had posted. We'll show actually a photo with the screenshot of our winner. And then we'll put that for sure on our Instagram page. So here we go. The winner is Ganawage's own Gawanidake Dear Bobby D. So you are the winner of the first beading table giveaway. So nyawa, everybody.
Congratulations.
And maybe just to let everybody know that we are going to have a special guest coming into the beading table. A fellow beadwork artist from Ganawage is going to come in. We're not exactly sure who it's going to be. But we have made a few calls, and anyone who is brave enough to come here and sit at the table and ask us some questions, we are going to...
and be questioned.
And be questioned, yes. Ask questions, be questioned, share their experience, all that kind of stuff. We will be posting prior to the actual recording to let you know exactly who it is who will be coming. So if you happen to have any questions for them specific, we could maybe add that to our questions also. So be on the lookout for that. We'll be posting our winner of our first beading table giveaway on our Instagram page. Maybe I'll just say nyawa for listening. And Degariyakwa, would you have anything to say before we sign off?
Bead like the wind, people. We'll see you next month.
Nyawa for listening to the beading table.
The views and opinions of the guests expressed in this podcast do not reflect those of Youre and its employees.